salespeople are generally killing their quotas at their current organization. They're not spending all day looking at job boards. And so to find the best salespeople, you turn into a sales organization. You have to go hunt the people that are hunting business.
You're listening to Titans of the Trades. I'm your host, Ryan Englin, author of Hire Better People Faster and creator of the CoreFit Hiring System, a proven process to help growing companies attract and retain only the best. I'm on a mission to revolutionize the perception of the trades and elevate it to new heights. After growing up in a blue-collar family, my passion for making the trades cool again runs deep. If you're a titan in the industry and want to be on my show, stick around until the end and I'll reveal how you can be my next guest. Welcome back to another episode of Titans of the Trades. I am your host, Ryan Englin, and I'll tell you what, it's not often that I digress on a show where I start asking a lot about how they're really helping people, because what Ryan and his team are doing over at Talent Harbor is it's a shift of the industry. And if you are someone who's ever struggled to recruit good salespeople and you're just like, oh my gosh, there are no good salespeople anymore, you owe it to yourself to not only listen to this episode, but check out what Ryan and his team are up to. Ryan's the CEO and founder of Talent Harbor. He's got an amazing team over there, and they're really putting a spin on the way recruiting and placement works. So get ready to take some notes. He actually gives you a lot of great tips on hiring and motivating and retaining salespeople. So if that's you right now, this is your episode. I want to welcome to the show, Ryan Hogan, the CEO of Talent Harbor. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
And I'm looking forward to today's conversation. There's so much here that we can dig into, but before we get started, I would love for you to just introduce yourself to our listeners. And then just right out of that, lead into this thing about Hunt a Killer, because anytime I looked you up, I learned about Hunt a Killer, and I was like, okay, there's a cool story here. I want you to share it with our listeners, and then we'll jump into what they're really here for, which is to learn about traditional recruiting, why it's not working, some ways we can fix some things, because I know that's your expertise and clearly what we both enjoy talking about, because we just spent the last 30 minutes doing it. So go.
We almost took up the entire time without recording. This is my life's been kind of interesting. So it's like this dual track. Half the track has been in the Navy, which the Navy kind of found me at 17 years or 17 years old. I needed something. I had a lot of energy, a lot of drive, a lot of ambition. But I needed something to like help channel that, because it was not being channeled in the right places. And so for the last 23 years, I've been in the Navy. 15 were active. And then the last 8 years have been in the reserves. And then there's been this like dual track, and the dual track is entrepreneurship. And for me, it started with a company called Warware, which was my first lesson in, if you build it, they don't necessarily come. But Warware led me to another company called Run for Your Lives. And Run for Your Lives was this 5-kilometer outdoor adventure race. And so if you think back to like Tough Mudder, Warrior Dash, Spartan Race, things like that, we were actually number 3. And what it was basically we put 250 zombies on the course. And so we immersed you into this story, into this environment where basically everything was post-apocalyptic. You put on a flag football belt, you ran around, and if you got through the whole course with at least one flag belt remaining, then you were still alive. That was if the first one was, if you build it, they don't necessarily come. The second lesson that I learned with that one, the next one, was you should probably understand a bit about finance and your finances and be able to spell P&L. And maybe hiring all of your best friends it isn't the right play there. And so that grew very fast and ultimately bankrupted. Trying to maintain a TSSCI clearance with a bankruptcy, that was a very interesting endeavor. But then fast forward 3 years. So now we're 2013. Fast forward a few years, 2016, launched this company called Hunt a Killer. And it started like I can draw kind of a line between all of my ventures, and this one started as a live event. And so we used a lot of that experience that we had from Run for Your Lives, and we applied it to Hunt a Killer. And the biggest issue that we had is that the event just didn't scale. So when you think about Run for Your Lives, we could put 15, 20,000 people through a course in any given weekend. with Hunt a Killer, you couldn't have thousands of people standing around a fake crime scene. So we said, great, well, we've got product market fit. We were able to get inside of these micro communities around these true crime podcasts. But we just didn't have a good scalable business model. So we pivoted into subscription box. So if you think back to 2016-ish, you've got Loot Crate, you've got Birchbox, you've got all these subscription boxes that are just coming out. Pivoted into subscription box. We took that from 0 to about 48 million in about 5 years. Then we got into retail distribution, and the rest was history. But sold that last year, which was exciting, and then got into talent acquisition, which is basically something I wish that I had, because expert recruiting is truly a core competency and can provide really a competitive edge. But it's just generally inaccessible for small, medium-sized businesses. So launched Talent Harbor, which was something I wish I had.
Yeah. Well, and now you don't have to chew glass anymore.
That's
right?
that's consumer. Consumer is like, you wake up each morning and you eat, because this is the most common question I get is like, well, how do you go from this murder mystery to like talent acquisition? The first thing was, it was Vistage. So my Vistage chair pulled me aside and he was like, we were going through the sale process. We had 3 horses in the race. We were probably 6 months in with a banker. And he was like, hey, kid, you're not going to be able to sit still. So go look at your P&L now, pick your favorite line item, and go do that for a while. And so that's what I did. And for me, it was talent acquisition. But yet consumer space, looking outside, looking in, it's like, oh, it's sexy and it's this. No, it is brutally painful for entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I got a chuckle out of that, so I had to share it.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I mean, what I love about your story is you have done massive scale on things in a short period of time, which I actually think is one of the fastest ways to learn what you don't know.
Yeah.
and to figure out, how do I solve these problems and challenges? And when you're scaling that fast, you can't do it by yourself. And that's what I learned from that. So you've gone into this Talent Harbor, which is helping people with talent acquisition, but you're not doing it like the rest of the industry. We've got listeners on here. I've got clients that they all have paid a 30% finder's fee, right? Like a contingency fee, because they get that 90-day guarantee. So it's perfect. And they find out that, oh, that person wasn't all I thought they would be. Maybe they had the chops, they had the resume, but they just don't fit here. And it's just, they bang their head against the wall. But because there's a lack of other options in the industry, I mean, outside both of us, right? Like they feel stuck. And so they do. So tell me a little bit about, what was it about talent acquisition that was your thing? Because you went and picked that off your line item, which I imagine at 50 million, you had a few line items. And then what's different about Talent Harbor? Like, tell me how that works.
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. So the first was, we spent about $1 million on recruiting. So like when my Vistage chair asked me that, and I went and looked, I was like, oh, it's people, it's the development, coaching, mentoring, it's everything people, which is absolutely my favorite line item, is like supporting people to grow professionally, to grow inside of the organization. But we spent about $1 million in recruiting, and the industry itself just never made sense to me. When you get to like this idea of 30%, small to medium-sized businesses can't afford that. You can't afford 30, 40, sometimes $50,000 for a single hire. It made no sense. But you look at recruiting, and like recruiting is truly an expertise. It's something that you need to, you've got great sales leaders out there. You've got great operations managers. They've been focused all of their careers on learning and honing their craft in that. What makes people think that they are also going to be expert recruiters? And that's what we do as organizations, is we say, we've got this leader, now they're the hiring manager, now they are the recruiter. And that just makes no sense to me, because like, it truly is a profession. It truly is a career field. But if you can't access it, then what happens? Then you're just most of the time hiring the wrong person. So the first thing we looked at was the business model. And we said, there can be something different here. And so we changed that. We took a card from my last company, which was a subscription company, and we developed this model, which was recruiting as a service. So basically, it's a flat monthly fee. There's no contracts. There's no term commitments. It's just when you need us, we bolt on, we become an extension of your team. And when you don't, you put us on pause and we wait until you've got another opportunity. So that was kind of the first thing, is like, let's look at the business model. The second is, where do great hires come from? Or what does a great hire look like? I've gotten hiring wrong in my career many, many times. And when I've gotten it wrong, it's not because I can't read a resume. It's not because I say, hey, look at this thing, and does it or does it not align with the requirements that I've built? No, it's typically because I've gotten the culture fit wrong, meaning I didn't spend enough time with that candidate to understand what makes that candidate tick. And so we not only came up with a new business model, but we built from scratch with my partner, who's got 25 years of recruiting experience, a recruiting process that not only vets for experience and expertise, but really gets into what makes this human tick. And are those the same things? Do those things align with the core values of the organization? And then the last thing that I'll just touch on is, generally speaking, especially in sales, which is where we focus, the best salespeople are generally killing their quotas at their current organization. They're not spending all day looking at job boards. And so to find the best salespeople, you turn into a sales organization. You have to go hunt the people that are hunting business, because they're not living by, sending out hundreds of their resumes each day. So that's kind of the third unique piece in this, is like, we are true recruiters. We are active outreach to passive candidates.
For us at Core Matters, like, we focus on high volume frontline employees, and there's enough people out there looking on the job boards. You're so right. I hear people tell me all the time, oh, I need this great estimator, or I need this sales guy, or I need this. And those guys are crushing it. They're not on Indeed. They're not on Indeed. And if they are, it's because they're down on their luck, or it's because they maybe they're going through something and they're just not employable right now. And so that's why Indeed has I forget what the throughput rate is, but I mean, every study I've ever seen shows that about 1.5% of the people that apply, so maybe 2 out of 150, are actually going to be quality people. Everybody else is just you spinning your wheels. And so that idea that you've got a system where you can target the passive job seeker, that person who's crushing it, hitting their numbers, and you can get in front of them. I love that. And I think there's enough people out there that need that, and doing it differently, because we know the traditional recruiting model does not work.
Yep. And that's like, you're exactly right there. And that's not to say, because you talked about some of the things that may pull people out of work, and you're absolutely right. There's a lot of reasons that somebody may not be at their current employer, or maybe kind of between careers. I will tell you that of all the times, like, my companies have gone up, they've come down, they've gone up. And so we've gone through a lot of interesting kind of inflection points. And so I've had to go through rifts in the past, reductions, layoffs, things like that. I have never, not one time, have laid off somebody that is a rock star. I will figure out how to position them, how to keep them inside of the organization. And with that knowledge, like, the same is true with salespeople. So if there's something going on inside of an organization, they need to make some tough decisions. The last person that they're going to cut is their top producing salesperson. So we see it all the time. When clients come to us, it's either one of two things have happened. They've either been searching for 30 to 45 days and they've received hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes, and they're like, everybody's unqualified. Or number two is they're on their third hire, and every time they hire someone, they leave within the first 30 to 60 days. And those are kind of the two use cases where we're coming in and saying, maybe here's some things we can think about.
Well, and I'll just tell you, experience-wise, I mean, there are some positions where you shouldn't even go through that hair pulling exercise. You just need to call Talent Harbor. Not that I'm here to promote you guys, but like, there are some roles, don't even bother, because I can tell you it's going to be that hair pulling exercise of either thousands of candidates that aren't qualified, or you hired a couple and they didn't work out. Like, just skip that whole process. Passive recruiting is where it's at. And I think you said something earlier. Passive recruiting is not something you just wake up and do. Like, it is a very niche skill set. You have to not only know where to go, where these people are spending their time, but you got to know how to communicate with them and get their attention. And that can take, like, if you want to do it on your own, that can take years to figure that out and get it right. And so working with someone who's already gone through the difficult times of figuring that out and has the expertise and the skill set, I think it's cool. And I like the recruiting as a service. How long? So here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I'm sure other people are thinking it. So I call you and I need a salesperson, whatever
Yep.
that means. I know you're a month to month.
Yep.
How long before I should have just hired a recruiter? Like, does
Yeah.
that ever happen? Like, do you guys ever get stumped? Are you guys good enough at being able to say, hey, no, we know we can do this in X amount of time? And like, what's that look like?
Yeah, there's a couple things. There's like three things there. The first is we look at our average time to hire. So it's a metric that we track internally. So for instance, in 2025, our average time to hire right now is 48 days. So that's kind of the first thing we lead with. So it's like, if you're thinking about budgets, it's really about 2 months. I will tell you that last Friday was our biggest day ever, and 4 people got hired. And out of those 4 people, 2 were with clients that were in their first month, and they already went on pause. And so like, we've got a sales team that's all about, it's like, hey, retention and things like that. That's their KPIs. Then we've got a recruiting team that's like, reduce time to hire. So there's this constant internal conflict, which is really interesting to watch. But you've got that. It also, like, one of the things that we do is we're bringing people through, because if someone doesn't know who we are, then like we want them to get other like reference points. And so for us, like right now, we've got 8 clients who are roofing companies. And so for some reason, like windows, doors, roofing, glass, things like that. What we'll do is we'll give a reference, and that way you can hear more about like what we do in our service. But that's really the big thing there is like, one, we keep a really good low time to hire. And number 2, we've got great happy clients that are willing to kind of vouch for what we do.
No, I think that's great. I love that low time to hire. And you focus in an area where you can continue to build expertise, continue to create those great connections. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I love that. So tell me, so you'd mentioned roofing, like, and I know your expertise is in sales. Tell me, what's that look like? Like, sales has a whole bunch of different meanings, especially in the contracting space. So what does that look like for you?
Yeah, there's a few different types. So we've got the estimators, we've got the people that need to go up on the roof, walk the roof, and then we've got other folks, especially in the roofing industry, that focus on more of like the insurance claims. And so it's all about like basically how they're positioning whatever type of sale or whatever type of transaction that they're looking for. The thing that I think is most important, and this is like we've learned through the reps in this, which is the compensation plan. Like, how are you going to compensate? Because we get a wide range of requests. So on this side, we've got people that are like 100% commission based only roles. They eat what they kill, and they come in, and when they come in, it's 100% commission. Then we've got the other side, which is, all the way on the other spectrum, which is more like, well, we'll pay them a flat rate, and whether they close 1 deal or 1,000 deals, like they're going to get the same amount of money. What we have found is it's really somewhere in the middle, and right in the middle is like where you get the best of both worlds. And it seems like to us, it has seemed so obvious because we've tested a whole bunch of different stuff, and that's usually the conversation we have up front. Because when a client comes to us, generally it's an owner that's sitting in the sales seat, and they're like, hey, I need to get out of the sales seat. And the only way that I can do that is by layering in some sales folks. Where do I start from a compensation? And so we'll outline kind of best practices, what we've seen that works. But with the 100% commission-based folks, what we see is very high turnover, and it is excruciatingly hard to go find amazing talent. You can find talent, but I mean, essentially what you're saying is, I don't want to pay them anything. They're going to work for free until they start generating. Not many people can do that. Most people need to put food on the table. And so we see kind of this blend 50-50. The other thing that's interesting is, and we developed this one alongside of one of our clients today, is this ramp up period. So it's like 75% upfront, after 3 months, 50%, after 9 months, 25%. And what they're trying to do is get them to a place of where it is commission, but they've at least helped them get to the point in which they can accomplish that. But that's
I love the philosophy, because I agree. I think the days of 100% commission and being able to get a 7-figure producer for that, like those days are pretty much gone. I
Yeah.
just think there's too many people vying for the same candidate pool that there's someone out there that's willing to do something that's a little bit more enticing up front, especially because not everybody can take 90 days without a paycheck before they figure it out. Uh, and I like what you do with that blend. That's something that, so we don't do a ton in the sales space. And so that's why I'm asking some questions here a little selfishly, but
Yes.
hopefully you're bringing some great nuggets. I love the idea of blending, giving them a base, a healthy base. I mean, we're
Mhm.
not talking a minimum wage base, a healthy base.
Yep.
And then saying, hey, anytime you close something, you get a smaller percentage, a little piece of it. I just had a conversation with a construction contractor who needs an estimator.
Yep.
And these senior estimators, they're expensive. Like you're going to spend a lot of money on them. But the good estimators, they want to be able to make even more. And so if you can entice them with a healthy base and then give them a percentage of every job that they win over a certain profit margin, I mean, you do a whole bunch of great things with that. Number one is it allows you to be very competitive in a very competitive space. But the other thing is it almost gives them a little bit of golden handcuffs too, because now they've got to wait for that job to bill out before they get paid. Uh,
Yep.
so that's some kind of the stuff that we do in the sales. Now you mentioned something. You said that these guys are motivated by money. And you said that, and I believe that's true, like a good salesperson is motivated by money. But you've also told me that you believe that culture fit is way more important than their skills and abilities to be able to do the job. Help me reconcile that a little bit. Am I hiring a sales guy for culture fit, or am I hiring a sales guy who's motivated by money, or how do I do both?
Yeah. I would say if you're going to prioritize that, it's culture fit all day long. If
Okay.
you have somebody that comes in and they don't mesh well with the culture, there's this whole notion, especially in sales, where it's like the assholes are like the best producers, but the degradation that they are having on your culture far exceeds the revenue that that individual is bringing in.
Mm,
Or maybe there's opportunity costs, like they're holding the organization back. So maybe the organization is producing great sales with this person, but there's other things inside of the organization. Maybe you have high turnover on the operations team because this person keeps overselling everything. So now you constantly have a ticked off operations team that's like, this project was oversold. These things are impossible, and here we go. So
that never happens.
no,
Stop
salespeople
this crazy
never
talk.
never oversell. I'm like the sales guy in Talent Harbor, and Alana is a 25-year. I mean, she sits in the sales seat, but I will sell sometimes. She's also a true recruiter, and she'll be like, "What did you say? Like, what you can't? We need time for this, or we can't own." Anyhow, I get it. Because we're just we just want to help. Um,
Yeah.
but long-winded, first and foremost, it really needs to be a culture fit. Money's
Mm.
important. Like you need hungry people. And here's something crazy that we found. It's not crazy, but it's just a really interesting insight. We have found somebody that people that come from some sort of competitive background. So maybe it was collegiate sports, maybe it
Mm.
was the chess club, whatever it was. If we can find something in their background where there was some sort of competition, those are generally some of the best people that you can place, especially in sales. You need that. They need some sort of competition. They need some sort of hunger, some sort of drive. And that's where the compensation comes in. So if you can strategically put together a compensation plan which incentivizes them to remain competitive, great. But first and foremost, they need to fit with the culture.
Yeah. No, I mean that's what we say. I mean, if someone comes in and they're not a culture fit, I don't care how great their skills are, it's not going to work out long term.
Yep.
But what we often do is we often do culture fit at the end of the interview process. And we're like, oh my gosh, they're amazing. They can do it all. And then we're so infatuated with them, we ignore some of the culture stuff. But I can tell you, I've seen it happen so many times where people have applied for a job. And once we find out they're a culture fit, we find
Mhm.
out they can't do that job, we're going to find another place for them because getting
Yes.
that culture fit is so hard. So, but I love what you said about that. When it comes to sales, that culture fit is so important, but that competitiveness, that drive, that inward focus on I want to achieve more is so important. And I think that's whether it's part of your culture or not. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Like And granted, I would say most organizations that are like excelling, succeeding, and growing have some sort of like core value. Like ours would be growth mindset, and growth mindset really kind of gets back to the competitive nature, because what we're saying is like we want you to move forward, we want you to move fast, and we want you to have a certain tolerance for failure. And that's kind of where the growth mindset comes in, because once you fail, you learn, you grow,
Mm-hmm.
you move forward. I would say most organizations or cultures have some sort of like competitive angle to it, but 100%, like if they don't have any, I would say that's very rarely, but if they don't have any sort of like competitive edge to them as an organization, you still need a salesperson that's competitive.
Okay. So I'm starting to just think about this sales process, and I know that you actually have a guarantee with your process. Is that right? Like,
We
if
do.
someone doesn't work out, you guarantee it. Um, how do we get that? How do we make that work if you're in an organization where there is no sales manager? Maybe it's a small owner operator. They really need this sales guy is they can get out of the field and get into the office. How do you manage? Do you have to? Do you have to manage a new salesperson? Do you have to onboard them a certain way? There's certain things that you have to do in order to set them up for success, or can you just let them run and go?
I'm just kidding. That's where we need people
That's a
like you,
loaded
Ryan.
question, but yeah.
This is where we need people like you. So like we have literally turned down clients in the past because they have no like sales process. So when we think about like what is successful, call it like project or a successful hire, there has got to be systems and processes in place. If there are none, everybody's set up for failure. And
Hmm.
we've learned this. We have learned this to the degree in which like we will not engage with clients if there's zero of that in place, because we're all set up to fail. And so like we know that the great talent that we place is going to churn and burn, because they're going to say, well, how are you measuring my success, and what are my goals, and like what am I actually accountable for? And if those things aren't in place, great talent leaves. So long-winded, when we see stuff like that, we say, hey, listen, we are excited about this opportunity. Before we can engage, you need to go talk to Ryan over at Core Matters and get some of these pieces put together. That way we know it's going to work well.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Well, hey, I mean, I could keep digging into this sales process and hiring salespeople. I know it's the big thing right now. We don't do a lot of it because there's so many nuances, and I think you've shared that. It's not just culture fit. It's not just the skills. There's got to be processes in place. There's got to be systems in place. They've got to be driven. Someone told me one time the secret to hiring a salespeople is hire them in pairs.
Yeah,
So they've got someone to compete against.
that's real quick on that note. And
Yeah.
the other reason that people hire in like twos or threes is because they can put them through training programs together. And so
Mm.
like people are thinking to themselves, well, maybe one won't work. And if I have that, then I can hire 2 to 3, put them all through the training program, be efficient with where I spend time, money, and energy. And this is what's interesting. So I think this is actually why and I was telling you this before we came on, but like Talent Harbor focuses on sales roles. We don't really focus in other areas, but that's because the market told us to focus on sales roles. I think the actual reason is we don't charge per hire. There are no success fees. So if someone stays 3 months and hires 4 people, it's the same rate before they go on pause. I think that's one of the reasons that like the sales roles have found us, is because like you just said, most people hire 2, 3, sometimes 4 salespeople at one time to put them all through the training together.
Wow, that's so great. All right. So as we wrap up now, Ryan, how do people learn? How do they connect with you? How do they learn about Talent Harbor? Uh, I mean, you've got a podcast. We didn't even get to talk about Confessions of an Implementer. But if you're in the EOS world, you've got to check Ryan out. You got to check out his podcast because he only interviews EOS implementers. So
Yeah.
I imagine there's just a wealth of knowledge on that podcast. I wanted to make sure I got a shout out for that. But Ryan, how do people get a hold of you? How do they learn more?
Yeah. Easiest way is you go to Talent Harbor, talentharbor.com/Ryan. And it's got everything. It's got my personal email. It's got my LinkedIn. Like reach out to me, even if it's not about hiring or if it's not about engaging. I'm at a place where I just want to help people. So if you just want a conversation or just want to trade war stories, hit me up and let's talk about it.
Awesome. Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show. I've enjoyed it. ton of great information, especially in the sales stuff, which I don't get to talk about enough. So I love that there are people out you that specialize in this, have an expertise on it. I mean, if you're struggling, for anybody that's in a sales role, you owe it to yourself to at least just check out Talent Harbor and what Ryan and his team are up to. Thanks, Ryan, for
Sweet.
being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Ryan Englin here. Thank you so much for listening to Titans of the Trades. If you're a titan in the construction, manufacturing, or skilled trades industry and would like to be a guest on my show, please visit podcast.corematters.com. If you found value in this interview, would you share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot on your phone and share it with a friend or post it on social. And if you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Titans of the Trades. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, click the subscribe button. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and get me one step closer to solving the labor crisis facing the industry. Want to know more about how we're doing that? Go to our website or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening.